Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Living Astrology with Janet Hickox. Grab your cup of coffee or your tea, sit back, and let's chat about what's going on in the stars and gene keys and anything else that we feel like we want to chat about this morning. Actually, I have quite a bit to chat about. I want to continue our conversation that we started yesterday about the gene key 13 and the energy in the shadow of discord and how it is that we can begin moving out of that shadow and into the gift. And then we'll transition to the gift in another episode. But today, I also want to go into the programming partner for the gene key 13, which is where the sun is sitting. Remember, the sun is at 13. The earth is at gate 7. So today we'll go also into our Rosie Aronson stories and we'll take a look at the gene key 7. So I hope everybody is doing well this morning. We open up the day in a void of course moon. And I meant to tell you guys this, but it was really funny on Monday. Which I probably would have noticed on Friday if I had been on air, but all that was going on. So, but Monday we had a 1 minute void of course moon, and it was like from 3:58 in the morning until 3:59 in the morning my time. So it was barely a blip on the screen. It was kind of funny. I hadn't noticed that was coming. But today, of course, the void of course moon is a little bit longer than 1 minute. Today it lasts until it started actually about 6:50, I think it was this morning my time. And actually, let me check that for you guys because I might be wrong. 6:20 a.m. my time. So 9:20 for you all on the East Coast. And it ends this morning at 11:03 a.m. Pacific time, 2:03 p.m. for you all on the East Coast. So we have a fair chunk of the day for some of us that are on the East Coast, in particularly where the moon is void, of course, during your work day. For us on the West Coast, we kind of get out of it fairly early. So that means then that the moon must be getting ready to change signs, and indeed, it's leaving Gemini for Cancer. Not that Cancer is a bad sign for it to be in, it just changes the mood energy. It actually changes the whole of the energy from the more curious, playful, jovial energy in the sign of Gemini to the more moody, emotional, nurturing, and caring energy of Cancer. Not a bad change, just a completely different change because it's a completely different energy. And with the moon in Cancer, we have things that our energies are focused around intimacy. And that might be bringing up or triggering our compassion, right? Our inner compassion for ourselves, but also toward others. We may feel more soulful and more nurturing and caring in our expression toward others. Of course, Cancer is a sign that rules the emotions. So expect moodiness for the next couple of days. You might feel like you're up and down and up and down. Earlier this morning, the moon was actually at the gate 12 in your human design. And that completed the complete channel between the throat center at gate 12. Let me see if I can share my screen real quickly and show you what that would have looked like. I'm going to share that. Here's a human design chart. Earlier this morning, when I first drew the chart at 6-ish my time this morning, this complete channel was filled in. And that would have been a completion from the throat center all the way down to the emotional center. This is called the channel of openness. But what it is sometimes an energy that vacillates between shy and retiring and bold and out, extroverted. So we had that to start the morning, but for most of you, it was, early and interesting. Just before I went on air, I thought, people are giving me feedback that they like it when I share my screen. So I went to get the chart, and sure enough, the moon had already moved from the gate 12, where it was completing this channel, over here to the gate 15, where it's now hanging, which is the gate of the love of humanity. Yes, the love of humanity. So we have the moon changing, and it will stay here in the gate 15 for the rest of the day. But you can see sort of the love of humanity and how that might play in with the moon in Cancer, making us more compassionate and taking us into more nurturing territory. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for just a minute. And so we also have that more emotional energy. It is where we have heartfelt understanding for our family, our friends, even the collective, the people that we might contact on in our daily routines. This is also the sign that rules family and home and our traditions. And so it loves the familiar. We tend to be more homebody, like when the moon is in Cancer, or we want to be more around the people that we know, that we love, that we trust. And often those are our family members or our closest friends. We have an emotional tie to our roots during the moon's transit through Cancer. And it's also mother energy. Maybe you want to reach out and talk to your mothers if you have them, and or if you can reach out and talk to them, spending some time with mother energy. And you might note, if you're a mother of children, that your children may want to be spending more time with you. And it also triggers our need to belong, which is also our connection then to family, our home, our traditions, and our roots. Now, we do have some things to watch out for when the moon is in Cancer. Of course, every sign has its high side and its lower frequency energy. So we need to watch out for a lack of confidence. The moon in Cancer sometimes triggers that shy, retiring part of ourselves where we pull away because we don't feel confident, or we don't have good self-esteem or self-worth, or our insecurities get triggered, and we become more defensive. Think of Cancer and the crab, the hard shell with that big claw that's ready to just reach out and snap at you in a moment of insecurity or in a moment of defensiveness. And we also need to watch out for becoming uber dependent upon other people to get things done, right? You got to stand on your own 2 feet. And we also need to watch out for smothering energy, right? It's okay to be nurturing and caring, but if someone is pushing you away, you might be smothering them and they want to be able to stand on their own. So that's what's going on with our moon today. It really isn't making any new contacts until after the time that it moves into Cancer. And at that point in time, it will square Venus, it will sextile Uranus, and will trine Mercury. So those are watery energies, by the way. So because Mercury's in Pisces right now, so it brings up the emotional way that we converse with one another. Or when we are speaking, we may find ourselves, I always talk with my hands, but we may find ourselves more in the emotion of what we're speaking today. And that will be, again, a transition for the next couple of days, as Mercury in Pisces is in a good relationship with the moon in Cancer. All right, switching back over here to Facebook Live. I just want to take a look at comments here. Good morning to Mimi and Monique Alexander and Jacqueline Lopez. And she says, oh, wow, good to know. And I'm not sure what that is. Susan Doyle Moore, good morning. And I'm going to try something here because I had comments set to new. Now I don't see how I can even change that. And so I don't see how I can change the comment stream. I thought I would do that. Mimi and I were having a conversation this morning. She offered to moderate for me in the background. We just need to figure out now how that works, because literally I can only see the top 4 comments. And that drives me crazy because I'm used to seeing the whole stream. And when I see the whole stream, then I can, chat with everybody. But if I miss somebody's comment, I have no way of going back. So it's all right. I will figure this out at some point in time. All right, let's go back. I don't see any questions, but welcome to you, Suzanne Doyle Moore. It's great to see new people out there. I always love that. You must be a friend of Mimi's because I see Mimi sending waves to you. So if you are out there this morning and you have a comment and I miss it, please put it up there again, just because I know I don't see those comments very quickly. All right, what else is going on for today? Well, remember yesterday we started our chat about Mercury in a sextile to Uranus. And oh, by the way, I'm going to share my screen again because I want to show you. Can I show you? I may need to do something real quickly here. There we go. That's there. And let me go back to Zoom. There's got to be a better way to do this, but anyway, share. Now, you guys should be seeing the chart for the day, or it's called the chart of the moment. And of course, I pulled this chart up at 6:17 a.m. So maybe the moon has moved a degree or so. In fact, right then it was in, it doesn't move into Cancer until later. So we're okay. But I wanted to show you in graphics the relationship between planets. And I know I'm not very good at doing the drawing things here. So I'm going to try something. And we're going to do this in red because supposedly I can actually draw on this chart. So I wanted to show you, here is the planet Mercury. And Mercury is in Pisces. See, if you look at the degree there, it's at 3 degrees, 12 minutes of the sign of Pisces. And over here is the planet Uranus. And Uranus is at that moment, it was at 2 degrees, 56 minutes, almost to 3 degrees of Taurus. And it is this relationship between these two planets that is a sextile. And a sextile is the asterisk, or it looks like a star. And that relationship between Pisces and Taurus then puts them in a position of being able to share their energies and their talents, the gifts and the talents between those two signs in a very nice way, and kind of an easy relationship. It's like two colleagues, right? Maybe you're both college professors. This professor over here, Mercury, is teaching about water and emotion and imagination, while Uranus and Taurus is about, let's do some change, let's create momentum to move forward in some way, and they tend to work together. Now, when you look then at the planet Mercury, it is the mind and our communication working well with this energy of awakening, of change or revelation. And so we have this connection today then again in about with original thinking and new ideas and the sharing of those ideas with one another, the potential for aha moments or epiphanies, but also our imagination and our creativity is triggered during a time like this. So I like this. We can kind of play with this, right? I can even change the color, I believe. And let's go to blue. No, let's go to black. And we can see, I want to just see, oh, yes, look at that. I can circle Selena. I don't know why I would circle her, but anyway, I just wanted to be able to show you guys a relationship in a graphic sense. Now, if you are thinking here, you might also realize that this is in Pisces, and then there's Aries, and then there's Taurus, right? So we can count, if you are ever unclear about what the relationship is, you can count the number of signs between the two, right? So we could go from Pisces to Aries is 30 degrees, and from Aries to Taurus is another 30 degrees, that's 60 degrees, and 60-degree relationships are always sextiles. So sometimes when my mind is moving really fast, I have to slow it down and actually count it out that way so I can actually see that. But barring that, let me see if I can stop this now. And I want to raise this up. Ooh, that stays showing. You can always look down here to this grid and take a look at what's the relationship here between, let me see if I can, oh, maybe I can. Let's see if I can do zooming in a little bit here. Haha, hopefully you guys are seeing that. I don't know how to get those marks out of there. Let me see here. So what I wanted to show you is Mercury here. And if you go down the column until you meet up with the planet Uranus over here, where they come together, you see the relationship between them is a sextile. Let's say we wanted to know what the relationship is between the moon and Jupiter today. Well, that was a bad choice because there is no relationship between moon and Jupiter today, right? You see a blank. There is a square from the moon to Venus. So this is a grid that helps you understand the relationships between the planets. And let's see, did I stop sharing? I think I did. So I'm going to go back over to Zoom here, or back over to Facebook, and see how people are doing. Do you have any questions, any comments? And there we go. Okay. Colleen, good morning to you. And Suzanne, you're getting welcomed by other members of the group this morning. That's always nice to see. Angela says good morning. Reflecting today on Gemini energy, I think it's the only one I have a hard time appreciating, which is funny being a Gemini sun myself with a partner that has a sun rising and Mercury and Mars in Gemini. Woohoo! I think my Scorpio moon and Sag rising have me annoyed with the lack of depth, and I get caught there. So, any thoughts on appreciating Gemini's best? Also, had many interesting Pisces Neptunian energies last night in dreams. That doesn't surprise me at all, Angela, because we have a very powerful Neptune in astrology right now, and that's because it's in a sign, Pisces, that it rules. So over the long term here, we have a lot of access to intuition, to the unconscious mind, to subconscious patterns that could be coming up through our dream time, because that's when our conscious mind is at rest, and things that we filter out from our conscious mind can come up. So the dream state is a really good place to work out issues and things, to get in information that during the day maybe you're filtering out. Now, as far as your relationship with Gemini, I think you said you had a Sagittarius moon and your comment just went by, so I cannot go back to it. But I want you to understand that Gemini and Scorpio's energies are in opposition, or let's see, Scorpio, they're in an inconjunct to one another. So they are not compatible at all. There's no real compatibility between the any planet in Gemini and any planet in Scorpio. They have to work very hard to work together. So that may be what's coming up, because Scorpio craves depth and intensity and passion, while Gemini is skirting the issue over the top of the thing superficially. It doesn't go into the depth, it prefers the breadth. So when we have that happening, it can trigger issues for you. And then what I would do is go into an acceptance mode. I would go into acceptance that you prefer things to be a little bit deeper. And it doesn't mean that you have to be annoyed with other people who are tapped into the superficial. You can take the superficial and you can go deeper with it if you want to, right? Because that is what we have to learn to do when the planets are moving through signs that are triggering energies in our chart. We're meant to learn how to use that energy to our benefit, and not to recognize, I think what you're seeing and feeling is valid, because it tells you that your mind is caught up in some kind of loop, perhaps, or you are in some form of judgment around that energy or other people or yourself, and it gives you an opportunity to course correct. So I hope that helps. And that's really what all of us go through on any given day, in any given connection that we have with planets, that there are times where it's triggering something really powerful. Other times it's triggering something negative, where we are a feeling that, we don't like this. And other times it's zooming us forward in some way. So, all of these times that you are going through anything, always ask yourself, what is it showing me about me? Is it showing me where I judge things, where I judge myself, etc.? I hope that helps. Okay, so remember, Mercury in a sextile to Uranus, just to button that subject up, is giving us an opportunity to see things differently, to interact with new ideas and new concepts, to have our aha moment. I should have had a V8, and imagination and creativity also stimulated through that. Okay. Now I want to go back and review a bit our conversation yesterday. First, I have a question, and I'm going to throw this out here to people, because I really, really want to do this, but I just don't really want to be on air all by myself, which happens sometimes because I know we get busy during our days, and I know you guys are here in the morning with me, but I really want to start a group around the gene keys, a study group, if you will, where I can take in the morning here. I can give you, I have a certain amount of time where I can share what's happening with the gene keys, but I want to create a space where things can go deeper. So I want you guys to give me, I'm thinking Friday is a good day for me to do this. It's one of my lighter days, and it's a day where I can devote more time perhaps to being on air to share this information. And I need to know from you all, what time would work for you for an hour long, I only want 1 hour of Gene Keys study group. And 2, what is your time zone, right? So if you're going to tell me 1 p.m. works, I need to know if that's 1 p.m. in Pacific time or 1 p.m. in East Coast time, because I really want to start this up and there's no time like the present, right? I won't be able to do it this Friday, but I'm thinking maybe next Friday, maybe starting, or maybe we'll wait until the new moon and start this as a way for us to take the gene keys into a deeper level. Because if I spent all of the time talking about the gene key 13, sure enough, the sun would move into a new gene key, and now I'm caught behind the 8 ball. So I want to be able to not only talk about what the sun is doing, but I want to also go deeper into what those outer planets are doing. For God's sakes, Neptune sits at one gate all year long. And Pluto basically now will sit at the same gate all year long. Jupiter and Saturn are dancing around the gates that one another have been in over the course of the last year, and then conjunct later on in the year at a specific gate. So I want to be able to work through these things in a deeper way. I just don't have the time to be able to do that in the morning because there's so many other things to talk about in the morning. So let me know, I'm interested in participating on a Friday, and what time on that Friday would you be able to do that? And you're going to send that as an email to me to Janet at living-astrology.com. Janet at living-astrology.com. All right. I hope everybody got that. Let me take a look real quickly before I launch into my next activity here. And Jacqueline says, yes, I work from home, so I'm able to take my break. I am EST, so almost any time then for you, Jacqueline. Susan Bronlin, good morning to you. She says yes to Gene Keys Friday at 8 a.m., noon, or 2 Pacific time. So 2 Pacific time would be 5 p.m. East Coast time. I don't know how that works for people, but let me know. Debbie Tibbetts, 2 meals, CST 9 to 12 would be nice. Good. So thank you for, putting those comments out there, but please email them to me because, well, I can go back and see these comments, but it's easier if I have it all in one place. So let me see if I can comment here with my email address so you guys can see what I'm talking about, living-astrology or -.com. There we go. Okay, so let's go back. Oh, I was going to check and see if there were any other questions. None that I can see. This is a good thing, I think. Okay, let's go here. So, I just had a thought about how to solve that problem. Mental note, Zoom chat. Okay, I'll work on that one later. So let's go back to yesterday's conversation about the shadow of discord, which was the gene key 13. Remember, we set out a definition for discord, which was this: the inability to listen to and learn from our experiences in the world. And the theme in the gene key 13 is all about listening, which is done with your whole being, not just your ears, right? If we're talking about just the auditory information that comes in through your ears, we're talking about hearing. We're not talking about listening. So the theme in this gene key takes us into deeper listening, right? The whole being listening, which is linked to the way that we process our life experiences on the emotional level, right? You know that we talked about yesterday how a piece of music or somebody's speech can really move us on the emotional level. That's how you can tell when your whole being is involved with what you're listening to, because everything is sort of tingling or awake and aware of what's being shared with you in the experience. Now, the 13th gene key then urges us to remember the past. It connects us to the past, and often those emotional connections that from something we're listening to triggers the remembrance from the past, right? The stories that from our past, the things we've learned in the past, our past experiences, etc. And then its programming partner, which is the 7th gene key, pulls us to the future. So it's interesting because this is happening right now in February, where we've just come out of the month of January, which is about the god Janus, which was a two-headed god, where one head or one face was forward to the future and the other was backwards to the past. So here we have now a lesson in learning how to listen with our whole being, and then not necessarily repeating the mistakes and the experiences from the past, right? So today I want to explore our past and and how the past links us to a story, in quotes. So discord also refers to the inability that we have to escape our past. And then that inability keeps us locked into that old story or to the same old self-destructive patterns. And this is happening both at an individual level, but also for all of us on a collective level. And if we go bigger and we just say the whole of humanity, the whole of life on this planet is kind of locked into the same self-destruction that's based on the past. It doesn't it seem like we're always trying to recreate the past? And when we try to do that, instead of taking the past and linking it with what we've learned to create a new positive future, we get caught up in that energy of discord. Now, the shadow or discord as a genetic marker, as a codon in your DNA strand, is linked chemically linked to the amino acid glutamine. And not to wax totally biologic here, but glutamine is an acid that codes for the different things in your body. And science has recently discovered that that particular amino acid really plays into the functions or the malfunctions of the gut, right? So again, the gut, linking it to the solar plexus, to the emotional field. And so what we see is that our ability to listen or not is linked to the force of our being able to get through discord, right? To let go of discord. Now, that's also linked to another shadow in our human design or in our gene keys called the shadow of desire, which is at the gene key 30. So I'm going to bring up I'm going to share my screen with oh, I'm in Zoom. Okay, I'm going to go back to our human design chart. And you all should be seeing the human design chart here. And I want to share with you where these gene keys are. When I use the word gene keys or the term gene keys, it is interchangeable with human design gates. They're the same thing, just from a different system. So human design forms the basis of the gene keys. Richard Rudd, in bringing to life the gene keys, just went deeper into what the energies are as they're represented here as codons in your DNA, in the genes in your DNA. So as we look here, then we see the gate 13. Here's 13 right here. Ooh, can I get I'm in paint. I don't want to do marks here because then it stays on the screen. But right here, you can see hopefully my little cursor moving around. This is the gate 13, also known as the gene key 13. Here's where the sun is sitting right now. Now over here on the other side is where the gene key 7 is. And the gene key 7 is the programming partner to the 13. And this is where the earth is. So we see that the sun and the earth are partners in our evolution of consciousness here on the planet. Now, if we go further down, we get a chance to look at the 30, which is on the emotional center right here. There's not a planet sitting there right now, so we don't have to worry that there's some filter on this. But what we have to understand is that the gate 30, it sits at a point where we have desire, and it's not desire that we think of where I want something, right? I want maybe freedom, or I want love, or I want a relationship. It is those things, but taken to the nth degree, where we feel this constant void within us. And from that void, we're trying to fill it with things, right? Things. I was reading this article the other day, and think about like the things, that consumerism that we get caught up into. And I was reading this article about clothing and fabric. And did you really realize that, fabric and the dyes and so forth that go into making it are very caustic and very environmentally unsafe? And these companies, these fashion companies, are consistently sending out the message to you through seasonal fashion changes that you need to update your fashion, right? You need to update, you need to get more clothes. And in the pursuing of that, fulfilling a desire to be, haute couture, we are literally wearing garments on an average of 4 times before we end up tossing it either into the trash or sending it to a Goodwill or someplace like that. And so we're feeding into more discord here because we can't seem to fill this void. We've talked about this before, and it's sitting on this emotional level. It is what we call a red flag gate in human design, or in the gene keys. You could think of it as a red flag gene key, because whenever it pops up in our field, we are very much trying to fill this void with something because we can't stand the absence of something. Right? So we're always trying to fill it. We might be filling it with sounds. We might be filling it with sex. We might be filling it with food. We might, you name it, we might be filling it. Right? So we have to really look at what is that void and what are we trying to fill it with? And then symbolically, this links this amino acid and the connection between discord and desire, links us symbolically then to how we process the past, being linked to how we are able to eliminate waste in our bodies. So for those of you who, and this is, let's get a little gross and graphic this morning, but those of you who have suffered with constipation or diarrhea or a gut that leaks or has Crohn's disease or any of these, IBS, then it is a disruption in your ability to process the past and to let it go, to eliminate, to remove from your system. So often those, and it's not, it's not like I'm saying it's your fault. It's not that. It's that these things from the past are so connected to emotion that we carry that emotion and we don't process it. We hold on to it. Who wants to relive the past? Well, in our very ignorance of processing the past, we're creating an issue in our guts and in our ability to process and to move forward. So we keep getting caught up in this loop that takes us back to the past. We haven't really processed yet all of that. And so we go back and forth going through this. It's like a scale, right? We're constantly going back and forth on this scale. And so despite what our past experiences tell us, we keep making the same poor judgments, the same poor decisions, and that is based on our endless desire for something to fill that void. And I'm going to give you an example here before we go on to something more positive. And so I want to give you an example of non-renewable energy sources like oil. From the time that I was a kid, I was literally, I think I was 16 at the time there was the first oil embargo. Some of you weren't even born yet by the time I was 16. It was 1975, I think, 1974. See, I would have been 16 in 1979 or 78. So somewhere in the late 70s, we had an oil embargo going on with Iran, and it cut the supply of oil. And at the same time, scientists were telling us, look, we've got to reduce our reliance on oil because it's a non-renewable resource. It takes millions of years for plant life to break down and turn into what we know of as crude oil that then gets refined into gasoline that runs our cars and engines, etc. Right? So we knew that this was a non-renewable resource, yet at the time, it entered into our consciousness that maybe we should reduce the size of cars and the amount of fuel they use to smaller cars, which we did, and they were more fuel efficient, and that became a thing. Eco-friendly cars, or smaller cars that burned fuel more effectively. And even manufacturers of cars were given sort of restrictions on what the consumption of fuel would be, how many miles per gallon that car would get for fuel. Then that's followed, right? We have these laws and these regulations then that are protecting this, that we know this is a future. This is an inevitability that we're going to run out of fossil fuels at some point. We don't know what year exactly that's going to be. But then what happens? We discover that we can reduce our reliance on foreign oil by fracking. right? I don't know if you guys understand what fracking is, but there's oil caught up in rock layers. And in order to get to that, they have to inject a bunch of heat and a bunch of pressure that breaks the rock up, and they can tap into natural gas that way. They can tap into oil. The shale sands, for example, in Canada, provide a lot of ability to get oil. It's costly to get, and it's also terrible on the environment. Just ask people that live in places that are not usually given to have earthquakes, and the number of earthquakes that they have in places like Oklahoma and Arkansas and other places in the Midwest, where earthquakes are not a part of their usual conversation, but fracking introduced that. So we introduced this, right? These hidden oil reserves that are locked in these rocks. And what happens then? We have this explosion again of high fuel using cars, SUVs, vans, trucks that are gobbling up fuel, and then relaxing then through regulations the miles per gallon requirement or the emissions requirements that we're protecting our air, protecting our environment. And so the automakers now, they're ditching, even though they're starting to really look at electric cars and electric engines, and we have that in smart cars and all of that. They give way. We go back and forth from this eco mind. We've got to look to the future because we're going to run out of oil. And then we go right back to that old way of doing things with our SUVs and our gas guzzling and relaxing regulations on car makers and gasoline providers, etc. So great example. Then the same thing happens with global warming, right? It jumps into our awareness. We go, whoa, we've got to do something about this. And then we go back to our same old ways, right? Because everybody wants an SUV or everybody wants to keep burning fossil fuels, or everybody wants to make money off coal or oil or gas, right? So our consumerism is driving this discord, and it's driving this ignorance of what our experience has been in the past. We easily forget and let go of the past in that case, because we need to fill the void of desire, right? The desire for the bigger, best cars, the more space, perhaps, whatever it is, right? And even then we know how gas prices go up and down. Even that doesn't create enough pain for us to completely go away from fossil fuels, and over to electricity. It's amazing. And it's a thing that goes on. And that's a very big example from the bigger collective, wider world. But what's going on in your own individual life that might be something smaller, but is also equally your story, right? Where that story keeps getting repeated. And have you ever noticed in your life where you wash, rinse, repeat, like, oh my God, this is the same thing that keeps happening to me over and over and over? And yet, have you really looked at what the source of that is, and then dealt with the emotional connection that you have to that past repeating itself in order to move forward? I don't know. Some people probably do. I know I do it all the time, but I don't always come to the solution either. So, we have to become better at really listening to the story that we're telling, right? What story are you telling consistently that keeps backing up that story that you have and that experience that you're then having because of that? And that leads to more discord, that leads back to your reliance on the past repeating itself. So we got to get better at this. So I want to see what people are thinking about this. Sort of like a volcano when it erupts. Yeah, it keeps spewing. Jacqueline, oh, wow, that is good to know. I was born in 75. Yeah, in 75, I was probably in 6th grade. So I was about 12. Kathy Miller, can't hang with you today. To-do list made and watching great grandson. Have fun with that, Kathy. And Jacqueline says, yes, even for our own health, even for your own health. Now, isn't that interesting, right? We know that there are certain key things that we shouldn't eat that, I got to tell you guys a great story. My son will probably kill me, but for the longest time, my son has been drinking energy drinks. And, it's very plain that energy drinks are linked to issues with the stomach, right? But we keep doing these things. Companies keep selling these energy drinks, and I do believe there's a little bit of a warning on there, but maybe it's for younger kids. But my son's only 27 and he has an ulcer. And the doctor said it's likely linked directly to your consumption of energy drinks and soda pop, and that he needs to stop all of that. Otherwise, he's going to continue having problems with an ulcer. It's amazing. But we keep repeating that. We know that it's not good for us, but we keep doing it. We keep doing it. It's like me, I'm not supposed to eat sugar, but oh my God, chocolate is so tasty. Oh, anyway, that's another story. Okay. Any other comments about that? Debbie, great. Thanks. Have a great day to you as well. And okay, now let's go to I'm going to go over to our story for the Earth. And of course, and this gives us an overview of the entire story, from the gift, from the Siddhi, which is the highest expression, and then also the shadow. So we get an overview of what the programming partner is to Discord. And here's the card. The card is the 7, and it is guidance. Look at that lovely face, right? Our elders in our tribe, in our communities, how often do we really listen to them, right? To their stories, to what they have to offer, to the things that they've learned from the past, right? So here's the card. And again, this is from Rosie Aronson's Oracle deck called the Wisdom Keeper's Inner Guidebook and Oracle Cards, the 64 Faces of Awakening. Rosie Aronson, you can get this deck of cards on Amazon, or you can do a Google search on Rosie Aronson and get to her website and order it directly from her as well. I just feel like I need to say that so you guys know that these are not stories that I made up. This is work that Rosie Aronson did based on the Gene Keys. I just love to share the stories because she's so cool. All right, so the real leader is the ultimate listener. The gift here is guidance. The shadow is division. Did anybody happen to watch the State of the Union address last night? Talk about division, right? Siddhi is virtue. Here's the wisdom story. When I was little, I trusted and admired the peace-loving elders in my community. As I grew, my people experienced more oppression from the outside world. New leaders appeared who believed that it was time to fight fire with fire. At first, I hid. I handed my authority over to the elders who maintained the peaceful ways of our ancestors. But when our community was attacked again and again, I handed my authority over to the leaders who fought back. I watched them become more and more like our enemies as divisiveness grew in our village. I was tired of giving my power away to dictator types who never bothered to ask what I thought or how I felt. I was tired of waiting for others to get it right. So I stepped forward as a leader and fought for my people and for justice everywhere. Over the years, I attracted many followers, always certain I was on the right side of justice. A deep ambition grew in me that was fueled by anger I hadn't yet owned. One day, I scolded a young woman for not listening to me or following my advice. Her tears showed me I had lost my way. From that day on, I stopped leading and started listening. I discovered that every community member was wise and capable of making an important contribution to our people's path. Today, I am no longer fueled by a fear of oppression or the desire for external recognition. I don't need everyone to understand the way I lead or why I do what I do. What drives me now is a deep love of service and the belief that there is no such thing as a healthy community without healthy, free, and autonomous individuals. When I guide groups, I interfere as little as possible and always find that each person's wisdom and gifts just naturally rise to the surface. The less I push my agenda for the group, the deeper the communication, the more transformative the action, and the smoother the implementation of vision becomes. There will be more and more leaders like me as we move into the future. I know this to be true. Thus, I am able to trust in humanity even during these turbulent times. My gift to you. I am here to share that true leadership is not about forcefully imposing an agenda or interfering in others' lives. It is about lovingly empowering from behind the scenes. Be not driven by the fear of oppression or the love of power, but by a profound love of service. I am here to provide you with true guidance. I come to recognize the wise, free leader in you and to help you trust in your own direction. I am listening. Don't you love how all those keywords are thrown in there, right? From both the gene key 13 and also from the gene key 7. Now, here are the questions for contemplation here. Where or to whom are you giving your power away? Where are you still hiding? Who has given you their power? Is it time to give it back? Are there areas in your life where you're pushing your agenda? Are you willing to listen more deeply to the needs of others? How is it that you would most love to serve the world? Where is your loving guidance most needed now? And think of someone in your life who has acted as an empowering, compassionate, and virtuous guide. What were the qualities you loved most about this person? Pick one to intentionally integrate into your way of being, listening, and doing today. Love that. If I get a chance to later, I will post those questions for contemplation for anybody who's interested in journaling through that, because I think it is a really worthy endeavor. Now, let's finish our conversation on Discord so we can move on to something better and something more enlightened, perhaps. So we have to know that we are more aware than ever of the problems that we face and the needs that we have to change. But it doesn't seem to have changed our collective behavior yet. We hear with our ears the discord that we've created, but we're not really listening. Now, that's not to say that there aren't individuals out there who are listening. And you, my friends, are those individuals, I'm sure, that are listening rather than just hearing. The dilemma here, though, is that in the end, the need that we feel to fill our desires wins. And then we go on pursuing those short-term agendas rather than thinking about the future, right? We have to be able to lean into the future at the same time that we're listening to the past and bringing forward the best from the past, and then combining that in order to move forward. So desire is a bottomless pit. It keeps us locked into filling the void with things of no real particular consequence. It leads us to more discord through not listening and not learning from the past. And it leads all of us as humankind into pessimism, another fun little word that we could bring up here. In order to move through this, then, we have to lean into the gift level. We have to find ourselves moving up to the gift of discernment. And this is where we're already running out of time. And I would love to spend the next hour talking about discernment. But of course, and actually I may do this sometime on Friday just for fun, because I think it's hard for me to sit here. I see the shadow, and I know you all see it too, but I don't want to live in that shadow. I don't want to really spend much time in that shadow, but leaving here without going into the gift or to the city sort of kind of leaves us in that shadow. So I want to continue that conversation in the study group in order to be able to move into the gift level, right? How do we emerge out of that shadow and into the gift level? And we probably toggle back and forth between those levels. We probably also reach to the Citic level at times and then come back, because we're evolving and we're growing and we're learning. So remember, in this, you as an individual always have the power of choice, always. You could choose to listen to the field of noise about what kind of car you must drive, how frequently you need to replace your clothing, about all of the things out there that people will, the market will try to convince you that you need, that keeps you keeping up with the Joneses, if you will. You also have access to delivering yourself from your past and from those stories that are keeping you tied to the past. You can really listen when you talk to yourself, or when you are in a conversation with someone. What do you hear yourself saying? And then are you really listening to what the impact of those words are on yourself, on others, on the world around you? So become your own best advocate. Be discerning. The gift of discernment is also yours, as much as this shadow of discord. So moving into discernment, really hearing and listening from a deeper place. and moving through and making choices then that elevate you instead of keep you tied to the past. Take the best of the past. Take the best of all the experiences that you've had, all the experiments that you've been through. It's not that they didn't have value, but the value in the past is really about how we learn from the past and apply what we learned to the now and set ourselves up for a better future. So I'll leave you with that in the gene keys. Now, before I go though, I want to bring up the Pleiadian-Earth energy of the day. Today we are in 6 breathing. The energy of 6 is the universal energy. So for those of you who are new to us, the 6 or the numbered energies are universal energies. So no matter what life form you are, no matter what planet you might be on or from, or whatever place that you call home from this universe, you are related to this energy today. And it's the energy of flow, right? Yesterday was 5 energy and we were changing and adapting and moving. Today, flow is about developing and refining and improving ourselves, right? It interacts with the other energies for us to be able to quantitatively change ourselves, but in a defined direction, right? It is where we are able to transcend conflict, both outer conflict and inner conflict, by blending and merging energies, right? Flowing through every experience without letting it stop us, right? Remember how a river flows around. We can go around, we can go through, we can go up and over, we can go under, but not letting it stop our flow and flowing through every experience then in our lives without seeking to change it and flowing around or through or over your challenges, right? Now, breathing energy is the earth energy of the day. And breathing energy in the Mayan calendar was Ik. It represented the wind. And here, breathing energy also related to the restless energy of air and how it moves and how it flows as well. But sometimes it's blowing hard, other times it's blowing soft, and other times it changes course. And so it's a bit of the unpredictable interjected into our day. And again, that might be why we need to have the 6 energy, so that if we are presented with challenges that interrupt our flow of air, that we can move around it, through it, over it, whatever, right? So it's time for us to experiment with new ideas or new thoughts, new ways of being, and new modes of how we operate in the world and how we've been operating in our lives. And to remember that we are all waves of energy and we are all in flow, right? You are always moving. There isn't a part of you that is static. You may think you're static, but deep within you, your heart is beating, it's moving, blood through your system, it's changing you. You're being changed every day and every moment cellularly as cells die and are sloughed off and new ones replace it. So you are a wave that is always in change, always flowing and flowing toward new experiences. Today is a great reminder to that idea of we can change, that we can flow, that we can transcend conflict of any sort by merging and blending energies within us, taking and deeply listening to what is this experience teaching us and where do we go from here. I like the synchronicity here, or the coherence between those energies for the day. Okay, I'm going to do a quick back check with Facebook. Any comments, questions, anything here? Good morning, Marissa. She says, I think I need to go back and listen to Monday and Tuesday. I feel like I'm missing something. You might be, and definitely those videos are up here, both in Facebook, but also on YouTube. And I do believe Marissa had a birthday over the weekend. Happy birthday to you, Marissa. Happy solar return, and wishing you many blessings for your upcoming year. Jocelyn says, like that, move forward with the best and leave the rest. Woohoo, like it. And then Jan also says, I also have a special weakness for sugar, and my dad is a sugarcane farmer, so I'm supporting his industry. There you go. And I think, there's a difference between sugar in its organic sense and the refined sugar. like I think our bodies are better able to deal with and function with sugar in its natural state. I mean, it was, you know, it's a plant. It's a product from a plant, but sometimes that sugar gets overly, not sometimes, all the time, that sugar is very refined, and in its refined state with, you know, the different chemicals they use to turn it white, uh, you know, then our bodies have to not only deal with the sugar, but also with the toxicity engaged with the other elements that are brought to it. So, and it's the same thing with all of our food, right? Everything that we eat, it comes along with it, preservatives and chemicals and yeah. So anyway, so sugar in it of itself, is it a problem? No, I think it's probably the refined nature of sugar and the amount of sugar that's put into other foods that we eat that really don't necessarily need sugar. So there we go. All right, guys, I think that is it for me this morning. Tomorrow is Thursday. So tomorrow we'll talk about, I'm not sure, the moon will be still in Cancer tomorrow or will be for the whole day in Cancer. Well, today it's only part day. Anything big going on tomorrow? Not necessarily. So maybe we will find some time tomorrow to go into the gift level of the Gene Key 13. I think I would really like to be able to do that. All right. Much love to all of you. Have a great day. I will see you all mañana. Bye for now.